Hi, I'm Anna, the director of Flight Free UK, and this is my narrowboat. I stopped flying over 15 years ago now, which seemed like a bit of an outlier thing to do at the time. And I was very keen to show that not flying doesn't mean not travelling, so I did a lot of flight free travel and tried to tell people about it. But when the climate crisis kind of came to a head in 2018, lots of people were talking about climate change and climate action, and it seemed to be the point where it was no good just me doing my own low carbon thing. I actively needed to encourage lots of other people to do the same. So I set up Flight Free UK, which is aimed at inspiring a mass change in how people travel. And it was inspired by a Swedish campaign of the same name. So, not exactly the same name, but the same kind of model. So we challenge people to take 1 year off flying to reduce emissions, to change a habit or break a habit. And that's what the Swedish campaign had done. They were really focused on getting people to all together take 1 year off flying. As a behaviour change specialist and as someone who didn't fly myself, that just made complete sense to me. So I set it up in the UK and here we are. Did ride my bike to school, and I cycled to uni when I got a bit older, and I cycled to work when I got a job. So that the bicycle was always part of my life in terms of getting me around, and knowing that I could live without a high carbon item, i.e. a car, was really reassuring, because that then translated to my views when it came to flying. So when I quit flying, I knew that that kind of mindset still applied, because I was like, I know there are low carbon options, so I can still do the things I want to do even if I'm not flying anymore. I was in every other way what I would call an environmentalist. I didn't own a car, I was vegan, I didn't, my energy was renewable energy, all of those things that you're supposed to do, but I was still flying. And I think for me it was because I wasn't flying that much, like a couple of times a year, maybe 3 or 4 times, because you don't do it very often, so you don't really think about it. Whereas when you are making decisions about your diet, that's a daily choice. When you're making decisions about how to get to work, that's a daily choice. Whereas if it's a choice about travel for a holiday, it's not daily, it's every so often, and that meant to me it didn't count. But then when I saw the figures, I was like, oh my god, all the carbon I've saved from an entire year of being vegan has now just disappeared in one flight. What? I shouldn't be doing that. When you see the difference, when you actually see the difference. So yeah, it felt like not flying or quitting flying was definitely a very logical next step for me, but it was interesting that it took me such a long time to realise. It took a little bit of time to get the campaign together, but we officially launched in 2019, and it was a really good year for talking about climate. Everybody wanted to hear about the project, everybody wanted to hear about what we were doing, and lots of people wanted to sign up to take that year off flying, which was brilliant. And then 2020 came along and we all know what happened. I mean, it was good because no one flew, right? But it wasn't exactly the lasting behaviour change that we were going for. Going flight free since the pandemic is a difficult one, because there seems to be 2 groups of people. The first group who flew because it was a habit, and then just that year broke the habit sufficiently that they are no longer flying, or they're definitely flying less. But then for some people it was an extreme restriction on their freedom and lifestyle, and once the restrictions were lifted, they couldn't wait to get back on that plane. So I think we saw last year bookings returned back to pre-pandemic levels. Because it's a behaviour change charity, we are trying to inspire that mass behaviour change. So by lots of individuals acting together, we can change the way society is shaped and what the norms are, what the social norms are. It's so easy to think that your individual action doesn't make a difference because you're just one person and the climate problem is so huge. But we are all part of the system as individuals, and we're all part of society, and if enough people change how they do things, that does cause change at the top as well. We need system change, we need things to change in order for us to make low carbon choices, but we can also force that change by doing it ourselves. So it's all interlinked, and we are inspiring the individual side as a way to influence the system, and other groups look more directly at the system, and that's essential. We have to do both things. Ultimately, we need to get to the point where flying is the outlier. So at the moment it's very normal to fly, and if you're the one in your friendship group who doesn't fly, you never want to speak up because you're kind of a bit of an outlier, a bit of a strange person. But if we could get to the point where if you are the one still flying, you're the one who keeps quiet because you don't want to admit that you're still using aeroplanes. So yeah, that's
that's what we want to get to.
If we could create that behaviour change to that extent, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
People take the Flight Free Challenge, which is 1 year off flying, so it doesn't say you can never fly again, but it's long enough for it to actually be a challenge, but short enough for it not to be impossible. But yeah, people sometimes sign up thinking like this is going to be extremely hard, and then they get to the end of the year and find it wasn't actually that hard after all, and it was great. So lockdown restrictions aside, if we're now talking about a time where we can freely travel again, it can be a very exciting year, and we've often had that comment. I thought it would be the worst year, but it ended up being brilliant. There are so many places you can go to without flying, and so many different ways to get there, that are all extremely enjoyable and enriching of the journey. So it's about that. It's definitely about reducing emissions, but it's also about the benefit to the traveller as well. Having a slow journey is much more enriching, much more calm than queuing up for a flight and being squished into an aeroplane. As exciting as the destination might be, the actual journey is pretty horrendous, right? Some people are really influenced by the emissions information. Like, you can tell someone just how carbon heavy their flight is and they will never fly again, because once people are informed, they make informed choices, and that might be very different to something that they chose before. And that's what happened with me. I used to fly, and then I learned what the carbon impact was, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. For other people though, the barrier is not being able to work out how you can do it. So we still want to travel, I still want to go to Spain on holiday. Well, how do I even do that? If I'm not getting on a plane, how is that possible? Oh, knowing that you can take a direct train from Paris to Barcelona, and then from there I can go on lots of different other routes, maybe bus, maybe high-speed train, maybe the local train. That just opens up this whole world. Look at Interrail, because that is a fantastic way to keep the cost affordable. So many people are saying, oh well, flight free travel is too expensive, which it can be expensive, but if you get an Interrail pass, then the entire trip is included in one price. So if you're booking trains separately to somewhere far away, like, I don't know, Sicily, then you are going to be adding a huge cost each time. Whereas if you're, and it might add up to something like £800. I mean, no one's going to pay that to go on holiday when the flight is a tenth of that. But if you get an Interrail pass, then the travel is included in that single cost, which is typically like £200-300. You can get to your destination and back for that amount. That's not that far off the flight once you've added all your extras, and it's much more palatable. So I would 100% recommend Interrail passes for anyone thinking about doing flight free travel. I wouldn't go too far. I think that's the main thing. Don't try and shove too much into a day. Keep the mileage low. Keep your weight down, so don't try and take too many things. You don't need a pair of jeans when you're bikepacking. Biking and bikepacking is just a fantastic way of being free and seeing the world. I'd make sure you've got a charger, because not all coaches have charging ports, so bring your charge pack with you. A good book is essential, and if you can have something comfortable like a little mini pillow that you can lean against, that will really increase your comfort. There are ferries from the UK to all parts of Europe, and you can go from Plymouth, from Poole, from Portsmouth, from New Haven on the south coast, from Dover, of course, probably the most famous one. You can go across to the Netherlands from Harwich. You can go to the Netherlands from Hull as well, and from Newcastle. So there's loads of different options from the eastern side of the UK and the southern side of the UK all the way along. I think ferry travel is just so exciting. It's so romantic and it's just fun. So yeah, I would recommend, if people haven't tried ferry travel, I would definitely recommend it. I would sign up with a friend maybe, because you can then G each other up and go on trips together. It's definitely helpful to have a few things in the diary. So plan your flight free trips ahead. Even if you don't actually book them, have something to look forward to, so that kind of helps you to stay on the ground. You've got that holiday to the Mediterranean already ready to go, something to look forward to. And you've got those city breaks, all that stuff. You can get a sleeper train to Berlin, you know, there's loads of different ways you can go, so maybe have a few booked. Something that is also going to make you feel good about it is keeping a track of how much carbon you've saved. So if you've done a couple of trips during the year, have a look at how much carbon that would have been by air and compare it to how much it was by train, because the difference is huge, and that should help keep the motivation. And then finally, unsubscribe from Ryanair. You don't want to have your inbox filled with all these adverts for the flights you're not taking. That can be really demoralising, especially if you see that they're offering flights for £8 and you're thinking, oh, but I've just paid 160 to go to this location. By the way, the flight is never going to be £8. We all know that, but we're still tempted by it. So just unsubscribe. You don't even need to know that. You are doing something that's amazing. It's not even that you have to feel good about yourself for like doing something good for the planet. Like, you are doing yourself a favour when you take flight free trips. It's just a great experience, and yeah, very beneficial to you as a traveller.
Favourite method of flight free travel?
I should say bicycle.
You don't have
I
to.
also love the train. Oh no, I don't have one answer.
They can be both. You can have bike and train, because you can take your bikes on trains.
Exactly, yeah, you can combine them too.
So the combo of bike and train is pretty formidable as
Yeah.
well. You can get a lot of places with those two.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Favourite UK holiday destination?
Oh, again, too many to choose. Oh my goodness. I am going to go with the Lake District.
Oh, good choice.
Absolutely stunning, and every type of landscape you could wish for, and close enough to the coast that you can go to wonderful beaches and have these insane mountains and beautiful lakes, and the countryside and the wildlife and everything is just gorgeous. So
Favourite European flight free travel that you've done?
I would say going to Lake Como. It's so beautiful. Similar to the Lake District. More lakes and mountains. There's a theme. Yeah, Lake Como. It was so much easier than I thought it would be, because you're spending an entire day on trains, and like 6 different trains, and it just was an absolute breeze, and it was wonderful.
Nice. Do you have a flight free holiday that's one that you're really excited to do in the future? Maybe the train doesn't even exist yet, but like, where would you like to go flight free?
I would love so many destinations, but I think I'm going to stick with Italy. So I really would love to go to Venice and down to Sicily. That's a longer journey, but that would be wonderful. there are so many things that need to change in order for many more people to choose low carbon travel. And one is just simply that information. Like so when you go into the supermarket, it tells you how nutritious your food is. There's health information. If you choose to buy a packet of cigarettes, it tells you the health information related to that. Why we should do the same for travel, so it shows you the carbon information of your travel. But it should show you that related to other things you do. So you might notice on Google Flights, it tells you which flight is the greenest, which is misleading because it suggests that any of the flights are green. Obviously, none of the flights are actually green. Some of them might be slightly lower carbon than others, but it's a tiny difference. So overall, it doesn't really mean much. But what would make more of an impact is if you knew how much that flight related to other things you do in your life, like your diet or the clothes you buy, or how much energy it takes to heat your home, for example, for an entire year. And often the flight will outweigh all of those things. And then seeing that, or even comparing it to the low carbon alternative. So if it shows you what the flight emissions are compared to a train, that, you know, people will be like, wow, I had no idea. Now I'll see if I can take a train to that destination instead. Oh, I can. Fantastic, booked. So it's having that frame of reference that makes that information useful, that would really help to shift people's behaviour towards low carbon travel.